Sorry, Apple thing popped up as soon as I said yes.
That's fine. I'll have to wait a couple seconds now anyway, just to make sure it's not encoding at the very beginning,
Yeah.
because it'll distort just the start, just the first like 5 to 10 seconds. This is a Team Objection podcast for December 20th, 2018, the final episode of the year, as it were, episode 372. Michelle is gone with prior commitments this week, so it's the three of us, and you can tell from our shirts what that means for this crew.
Sunscast.
Sunscast. Now, last time we had to record it a bit early because we were trying to get ahead of the busy time around Thanksgiving where, people were going out of the country/state, and a lot of things were happening. This time we're recording this on the eve of the Suns winning their third straight game to improve their record to a manly 7-24.
Which is horrible. But we have almost won as many games in the last 3 as we have in the entire season so far, which is, it's progress.
I forgot headphones.
Yeah.
Fix it on air. Fix it in post.
Here's the thing about the last 3 games that really have struck me the most. And the last 3 games being New York, Minnesota, and Dallas. We've had effort. Like, you've actually seen people on the court not give up. Like, there was a stretch where we were up by, I think, 12 or so on Minnesota, and they cut it down to 8 or 6 or something like that. And when we closed out the game, it's amazing how much the team has gone from this, like, oh, well, we're screwed type of mentality as soon as they get down or face some adversity to, hey, we're okay, we can do this. And I don't know how, a lot of that came back from Booker.
That's everything.
Coming back.
Yeah. Well, I think they have hope again, which is part of it. But I've been reading, a lot of people are crediting Melton, D'Anthony Melton, and Holmes for creating this kind of gritty defensive identity, and it's contagious. Even if it's just a couple guys doing it, it makes everybody else want to match that intensity and that hustle.
Melton and Holmes, I think, are responsible because you see it on both a team and an individual level. Even somebody like Josh Jackson, who's been much maligned by the fan base, and deservedly so sometimes, when he's made mistakes, and he's still been making a few of them and would have been some pretty good games in the win streak, for example, in the Minnesota game, turned it over on a bad pass, came down, blocked the shot, never gave up on the play, recovered, and kind of made up for his mistake by chasing him down and blocking the layup on the fast break. A couple plays later, got burned on an individual play defensively. Guy was making it to making his way up for a layup, came back and chased him down for a block again, and was like, you know what? I don't mind mistakes for a young team. Mistakes are fine. You'd like to not see them, sure, but overall I don't mind it, especially when there's the effort to back it up and then kind of make like atone for it down the road.
And I'm convinced Jackson is a bust.
I'm not.
I'm convinced.
I'm not.
But I appreciate the hustle, and I appreciate there was a game somewhat recently. He shot like a ton of times, and he was like, yeah, you know what, I shot too much. And I don't know what the stat was, but for like many games after, he stopped shooting that much. So he said something, how he's going to improve it, and then he did it. And I can acknowledge that while still recognizing, yes, he's going to be a bust, but I still appreciate the effort.
So I guess it depends on bust, like what you expect out of a number 4 pick. Yeah, I guess he might be bust. He's not. I don't really think he's got potential superstar. But honestly, if he can be kind of that defensive type of stopper and really mold into that, he's got a good shot at being a really solid rotation player, I think.
He needs to add 10 pounds, and he needs to work on his three-point shooting. I think those two things are going to unlock several things for him, one of which is the ability to finish better around the basket because he's still pretty gangly. Being able to shoot the 3 respectively. I don't need him to be a TJ Warren level improvement. If he shoots 35% from 3, it unlocks his drives because people have to run at him. So all of that helps.
Isn't TJ Warren the model of like how you can't always give up on these young players after a year or two? Dragon Bender's a lost cause. Don't worry, I'm giving up on him. But like TJ Warren went to college for 3 years, then got drafted. Now this is his 4th year in the league, 5th year in the league, somewhere along those lines. And he's really starting to shape into a really good player who finally added a 3-point shot. After the entire offseason, all we heard was how he couldn't shoot threes, and that's why we need to trade him. So, it does take time. And so I'm not going to give up hope on players right away, I guess.
I think it's too soon for me to go bust, although I probably would have said it in the offseason going into the year, if only because unlike Dragonbender and Marquise Chris and every other failed project, Alex Len, I see times where Josh Jackson looks like he knows what he's doing. There are certainly times he doesn't. He's sometimes way too much of a maniac on the court. The turnovers are an issue. The bad shot selection's an issue.
Yeah.
But I see moments where I'm like, he could put this together. TJ Warren's sort of similar, where you're like, he's missing parts of his game, and some of those he may not get, but if he adds a few, I think the same is true of Jackson. He's not there now, but I think he could get there.
If his ceiling is in Ariza, I would definitely not consider that a bust.
No.
But
we'll see. I heard a great quote the other day that apparently Josh Jackson said Jamal Crawford, who we'll talk about him because, man, what a godsend he's been in the past few games. But Jamal Crawford told him on a play, all right, you're going to go to this spot. I'm going to hit you with the pass, and you're going to hit a three. And it happened exactly as Crawford described it. And Josh was like, I'm going to listen to this guy. Okay.
It's weird to me that Crawford has been, if we went into this season and you asked me who's going to be the veteran leader, Tyson Chandler, Trevor Ariza, or Jamal Crawford, he would have been not only not the one I chose, he would have been the last pick.
I would have picked Ariza first, but I would have picked him second over Chandler. He won best. He was voted best teammate last year.
Really?
Well,
Yeah.
but something.
Minnesota loved Crawford when he was there.
I'll give you that, but there's like a good teammate, and then there's like a veteran leader.
Mentorship.
Yeah. And he's like guiding the players, and I am really super impressed with him. And 14 is career high. No, not career high, maybe.
Yeah,
but
it was.
It was
career
too.
Career high.
14 assists.
Career high, 14 assists.
Second to any player over 38.
Behind Kobe.
Kobe. Yep,
Yeah.
Kobe was the only one.
Yeah,
Kobe in assists. What?
Yeah.
I understand where you're coming from, though, because we've been force-fed this idea that you're supposed to have veteran leadership on the team, but there's two critical differences. One, they have to at least be able to be a functioning NBA player, which, as much as I loved Jared Dudley in his prime, he was not in his second stint here. And two, they actually have to have the place of leadership to come from that it matters, which is where Tyson Chandler was okay, which is why I think he did decent in that role. But he couldn't really play either. He could play 10, 15-minute stretches, but he's at the part in his career where he can't either. Now, Crawford can't log heavy minutes either, but he makes up for it in all the other areas in a way that I think is really beneficial.
I find it crazy to me how much I've always known Crawford as that guy you bring in, hopefully he hits a couple shots, and then you ride a hot hand until he gets cold. And now he's coming in being like a steadying force on an offense, which is crazy.
Always been an underrated passer, and I mean he's been nicknamed Jay Crossover for his handles. So I mean there's some other elements of his game beyond just scoring, but he's never been all that well known for them.
I'll never forget. I was on the way home from Phoenix, and I'm listening to the radio, and the Gambo and whatever whoever the other guy is were saying, who would you rather have? Our young core, and at the time it was Booker, Bender, and Chris, or the Lakers core. And this was like last year when when Bender was playing, not great, but still on the floor, and Chris was having some issues, but we thought there was potential.
But versus their core of Ball, Kuzma, and Ingram, I believe, is the ones that they were talking about. Yes, I remember actually hearing that conversation.
So now that we're a year removed, actually, it's
and
probably,
two of them are gone.
It's probably like a year and a half. Would you have done that trade? Which is essentially Booker for an entire young core.
Nope.
No,
I don't know that I would have either.
Booker's got the most superstar potential of anybody. I would love actually to have Lonzo Ball on this team if it was possible, but not for in case of Booker. Not in the case of Booker.
Well, and
anytime,
it's funny
anywhere.
At the time, we thought we maybe overvalued a few of the LA players and didn't realize Booker's stardom. So we were saying, well, Chris could turn into something, so you got to be careful. Now superstars are so rare, and you can have two stars, and they don't equal one superstar. A superstar is something that is super rare. You got to hold on to.
Yep.
And I think we're on the verge. He maybe isn't quite there yet. If he can stop getting injured, he may be.
The play I saw from him in the New York game last night, and it was kind of a blowout, so it wasn't like super clutch as people put on, but he took over that game versus in stretches of that fourth quarter especially. It was just like he got the ball. I saw a couple plays where he weaved in like Steve Nash. He'd go in, come back out, and then turn around. All of a sudden his defender wasn't looking, and boom, straight to the basket layup, or just drive at somebody and hit a jump shot right in their face. I see somebody who can just say, yep, I'm going to score in this play, and he does consistently. Yeah. It's crazy.
The biggest thing in the New York game was not just that element, which we've seen in flashes before. We've seen Booker go off in a lot of quarters and even some fourths in particular, but that he wasn't only looking to shoot. And it seems like in the fourth quarter specifically, especially when TJ Warren's having an off night, Booker's attempt for the last 5 minutes of the game is pretty much, I'm going to get the best shot I can because I'm the best choice we have. And he's not wrong, but A, he wears out by the end of the game when that happens. God forbid it goes to overtime and he's almost always disappearing.
Yep.
And B, it's just not a good way to develop team chemistry. Last night, there was 23 from Ayton. There was 26 from Warren. Booker had his 38. It was a balanced approach, and all of them had very efficient games because of it.
38 points, though. That's...
People talk about like
so good.
It's just putting up empty numbers on a bad team.
Stats,
I'm like, you don't know fucking shit about basketball if you think that's what's true about Devin Booker, and that's not being a homer. He has efficient numbers from the field.
Yeah, it's crazy how much he has improved since he signed that giant mega contract, which makes me so happy because there's so many people in history who signed that big money and they're like, all right, I made it. I'm good to go. Don't have to worry about things anymore. And Booker's like, no, I'm going to be the best.
No, and if you look at his shots, I mean, he's always contested because he's, maybe a little less so now. Warren's coming alive and we have Ayton, but he's still by far the number one option on our team. Defenses are honing in on that, and I know it's New York. They're not great, but he's still putting up really good numbers for how much attention he's getting.
I wonder how much of a test that's going to be for the Suns tomorrow night, which as of recording tomorrow night, but once it airs yesterday with the Celtics game. And
I'm sure it'll be easy, Dave. We already blew them out. I mean, we lost that lead, but I'm sure this time it'll go great.
Now that they've fixed their starting lineup.
Yeah.
To me though, I mean, honestly, I think the Celtics, they're not going to overlook the Suns at all in the sense of we should have beaten them last time and blew a 21-point lead or whatever it was. I don't remember exactly. It was too scarring. But Booker's averaging over 50 points a game in his last two games there in the Boston Garden. So I think they kind of want to try to shut him down.
I like that stat.
He's averaging over 50 in the last two games.
He had like 34 last time out, and of course the other one.
Yeah, the other 70.1.
Now I read, and it's happening already, and I was a little surprised. Fans are one thing. I was surprised to see a semi-professional publication decrying Ayton as the wrong pick and saying it's clear now. There's no debate that we messed up, and Doncic should have been our number one pick.
Yep, 28 games is absolutely enough sample size. Got it. That makes sense.
You read this, and it would have you thinking that Ayton is putting up like 5 and 2, like just as a he's averaging a double-double. We'd like him to be a lot more aggressive. It's so early.
Doesn't that scream how good Ayton is when it doesn't look like he's trying, and then you look at the box score, he's got 13 and 10, and it's like, you didn't even try, and you got 13 and 10. It's like, okay, start trying, and you're going to do a lot better.
I don't even know if it's trying. I think there's something to finding your place in the system, and
it is.
I think he does need to be more assertive, and probably does need more effort from beginning to end. But I also don't buy that he's not trying out there at all. You know what I mean?
I think it's not so much effort, because I think he does give effort. I don't think he knows how to be aggressive. If he could somehow just inject Richaun Holmes into DeAndre Ayton, we'd have a superstar in our hands for sure. Because I want to see Ayton fly down the lane and like run somebody over once, just to see like that streak.
He ran over Cat in the Minnesota game.
That's a good start. I mean, in the past few games, he has started doing that.
Yes,
which is awesome to me.
I think there's a lot of just adjustment period, and for Ayton specifically, I mean, in college he has to be in the 99.5 percentile of just size in general. And then you start playing in the NBA and look at some of the centers he's having to go after on a night-to-night basis. DeAndre Jordan, bigger than he is. Jokic, as tall and fatter than he is.
Yes.
Karl Anthony Towns, who's been just abusing people in the block ever since Jimmy Butler got traded. Like, these are bona fide men. Even Towns, who's only in his fourth season now.
Third, I think.
Maybe third, but bona fide, like, big-ass human beings who are actually grown men. I think to some extent he was letting the game come to him. Now, in 50 more games, if that's still the case, we'll see. But to me, it's like, I would be hesitant too. I wouldn't want to be like, you know what? Yeah, I'm going to score 30 on DeAndre Jordan tonight, one of the best defenders in the league. I would probably scale things back.
Well, and it's funny because everybody's like, we want him. I even kind of said it until I thought about it more. We want him to be like Towns. We want him to be like, what's that? Cousins. And I'm not convinced that type of center is what we want anyway. We want the type of center that he is, where you can run the floor, space the floor. Like that's the center in the modern NBA that is valuable. Towns is great, but I mean, he can shoot it, I guess, kind of.
Yeah.
I didn't see it in the game against us.
No, it was 0 for 5 against us.
Yeah.
He hits threes, though, pretty respectably.
But so let me tell you a story, you guys. This will be a completely analogous my junior high basketball days. But
Yes.
I was I was taller than everybody because I had a growth spurt and then never grew again after that. And
Me too.
So we were like running the offense and I was scoring a lot and it was getting near the end of the game. And our coaches started being like, get the ball at like the top and just go score. Like, we need you to just be a scorer. And I was like, this is a lot of pressure and really I'm not in the flow of the offense anymore. It's all ISO. It's not what I'm comfortable doing. And so I'm not letting the game come to me. And I thought about that with Ayton kind of, is like, we want him to be a specific type of player and we know he can benefit from that. But there's also an element of you have to let the game come to the player. Mm-hmm. And you can't just force him to be a certain thing and expect results. Like, he has to figure it out. And if it is being more aggressive, he has to figure that out on his own as well.
Yeah. And I had such a similar story where we were down by 1. The coach was like, all right, David, just give the ball to David and go to score. And I'm like,
yeah,
I don't know how to do that. I'm not going to break somebody down off the dribble.
I'm not James Harden. I can't just go do whatever I want.
Even though you're older than James Harden.
Well, I mean, that's... Yeah, now I'm an old man, Dave.
I know, me too.
He can do whatever he wants. You're the one that got dunked on by James Harden personally.
True story. I mean, I hold that as a badge of honor.
Honestly, I think that's a badge of pride myself.
I would have blocked him. That would have been a real badge of honor.
I would have given you $100 bill right then and there if you blocked James Harden's dunk. You're like, you know what, Shaun? Here you go.
At least back when he was dunking on you, he wasn't doing that weird fucking thing he does where he pretends like he got hit in the mouth. You guys ever seen this thing? His post-dunk celebration is he goes and he's like... Like he's smelling his hand. It's the weirdest thing. Like he's trying to get an and one or something on every time. I want him to stop.
Is it better than this?
Yeah. Well, no, it's not. That's better.
No.
The holding your mouth in fake pain. I'm like, well, it's not even a celebration. You just look weird.
He's just making sure his beard is still attached.
At this point.
Maybe.
Like, some people they'll like rub their hair when they're doing whatever. I wonder if he's like, just making sure he's not.
Like,
he's rubbing his hair, his beard.
Sure, he's making sure the beard doesn't smell bad. I mean, Steve Nash, as much as we loved him and he's our savior and lord, like he had his ticks. There was the licking of the fingertips, the brushing back of the temples.
Right.
Like there were things that he did, and I'm sure this is no different. But this one just annoys me for some reason.
Maybe he's getting like the anime nosebleed. He's so aroused by dunking it that he has to make sure his nose isn't exploding in blood.
Yeah, could be
possible.
Could be.
So, can I take you back to last Friday night with the absurdness of the trade, and then we can talk about
Friday night.
So
here's the breakdown of the story. Personal, just a little personal anecdote. The kids actually went to sleep over at a friend's house, so Courtney and I went to do some Christmas shopping. Courtney was going on to look at a few items, and I pull out my phone and look at it and see Suns trade with a three-way trade with Wizards and Memphis. Wizards get Ariza, Suns get 2 Memphis role players, and I'm like, role players, who the hell is this? Like, that's not very descriptive. And then I'm like, okay, we get Wayne Selden and Dylan Brooks. Okay, I actually like Dylan Brooks. I'm okay with Dylan Brooks. It's not perfect, but I like him. Okay, we'll see. Oh, it's Marshawn Brooks. Fuck that. No. Oh, this is a terrible trade.
You were as confused as the
Dylan Brooks? Yeah. And so, like, going back and forth, and I'm texting you guys the whole time, like, okay, I hate this trade. Okay, I don't mind this trade so much. Wait, no, it's Marshawn. I hate this trade. Wait, we're getting Austin Rivers too? Oh, I don't know about, okay, I guess he's a point guard. Oh, the deal's off. What the hell just happened?
Yeah. Well, and then it feels like we essentially helped the Wizards waive Austin Rivers. Like, what happened?
Yeah, it was really weird hearing that we were going to waive him because I thought he was going to come in and, not get big minutes or be like our starting point guard savior, but at least someone who could we'll see if he can run something. And he didn't even suit up.
I don't understand any of it.
There was a report that he wasn't reporting. And so was this like, are we just being nice to a guy who was like, I'm not going to play for you guys. You suck. There's no way I'm going there.
Maybe. Although I've heard rumors that he's going to sign with Memphis, which is completely ironic to me. That I was going to end up in Memphis.
So Memphis does not get Kelly Oubre, but they do get Austin Rivers.
The more
I think it's a good
I've
trade for
heard,
them.
the more I'm like, good. You know what?
Yeah, I agree.
I was trying to convince myself to like this guy, even though everybody around me was like, we hate him. He sucks.
Mm-hmm.
So, this makes it easier. The trade baffles me because it was Ariza for Oubre, which is
A lateral move?
At best.
Lateral move, but I mean, it gives somebody who had no chance and was not going to be with us next year to somebody we can see if A, becomes a trade chip sometime, in like a restricted free agent sign and trade type of thing over the summer, or becomes our a younger, better Trevor Ariza maybe. I don't know.
Yeah, and we have a Collette at the wing again, but
it's not no more, no less than we had before. I mean, we really traded out one for another one. So, I mean, overall, it's not the greatest trade, but it's way better than the rumored trade I heard with the Lakers, where the Lakers were going to give us Kentavious Caldwell-Pope and a second-round pick for Trevor Ariza. I was like, if we did that, I'd just go punch James Jones in the face, basically.
I think a lot of this has to do with fans' expectations, and unsurprisingly, for a fan base that's desperate for any kind of positive after the last 10 years, essentially, they, for some reason, got themselves worked into a lather thinking that this was going to result in a bona fide NBA caliber starting point guard, when the whole league knows what Trevor Ariza is. I'm not saying he's not a valuable trade chip, but we got back less, arguably, for Eric Bledsoe, who was in a much better situation than Trevor Ariza was. Now, maybe we just sucked in that deal. That could be a factor, too. But if Eric Bledsoe didn't even get us back anything decent, what was Trevor Ariza going to get? Yep. They were like, oh, we're definitely going to get D'Angelo Russell. I kept reading all these threads where everybody's like, D'Angelo. I'm like, why would the Nets make that deal?
Yeah.
What are they I understand why, from the perspective of Russell. He's about to be a free agent. They just committed to Spencer Dinwiddie, and they know Canis LeVert was having a huge year before he got hurt. But why? What do they need Ariza for? They're not going anywhere in the East, so why would they give up a promising young player for nothing?
To win now.
Yeah, exactly. To be the 5th seed in the East at best and lose in the first round.
Yeah, and if the Suns weren't willing to give up their first-round pick with minimal protection on it, nobody was going to bite at that completely at all.
I'm interested to see the story with Trevor Ariza. Was it just he wasn't engaged, or does...
There was a story actually that came out that said Trevor Ariza was the type of player who was always the last one into the arena on game days, and then would like leave. He was gone out of the arena before his teammates were even off the court for shoot around. It's like shoot around ends, and a lot of people hang out and like play. You know how you do with basketball. Like you're done with shoot around, and then you'll kind of just shoot a few extra shots or shoot the shit a little bit with your teammates. Apparently, Ariza was like shoot around's done. He's gone out the door and already driving home before his teammates even left the court most times.
Which, on one hand, it's like if you want to be a businessman about it, that's your prerogative. But I can't relate. Like, to me, the camaraderie is as important as anything else. And
there's an expectation that comes with getting $15 million a year in that position. I understand that he, maybe he came in and was just like saw the number and said, all right, well, I can't turn that down, and signed. But there's got to be some sort of expectation of, all right, your role in this team isn't going to be just, all right, come and play the game. There's got to be way more around it coming into that, and he just skirted that completely.
Can I just say that I think James Jones's fault in this has somewhat been overblown. I'm not entirely sure. We may never exactly know what the hell happened in the span of that 24 hours. It was really refreshing not to take a shit on a player as they got traded out for the first time in what felt like 6 years.
Mm-hmm.
And it seems like they had ample opportunity to dump on Ariza for what he did in his month and a half in a Phoenix Suns uniform. And instead it was just, they seem to come to terms with trading him to a team that's maybe in contention, although the Wizards probably still missed the playoffs. But they traded him. It was a favorable negotiation, and nobody said a word about him.
Yeah.
What a concept.
Although it's funny with that whole trade how Chris Wallace is adamant that no, it was Marshawn Brooks. The Memphis GM was adamant that they didn't screw up and everybody else screwed up and nobody had good communication. It's like, dude, you're trying to unload your garbage of Marshawn Brooks on us. He's not even going to be in the league. And
for what it's worth, I heard that they were trying to pull a fast one on us with the wrong Brooks. So we're never going to probably know for sure, but...
What was the expectation in that deal then? We were getting back Austin Rivers, who we ultimately didn't even keep.
Yeah.
So that was going to be the only major, if you want to call it major, centerpiece of that deal. And then a journeyman and a journeyman. That was what we were trading for? That's what we're expected to believe. That do you think James Jones is that stupid? Because I don't. Maybe he is. No. We don't really know that much to this point, but I really don't think so.
Now, would it have been better to get Rivers and like try to trade him, or is his value so gutter that it wouldn't have gotten us anything?
It's gutter, and NBA rules stipulate you can't make a 1-for-1 trade, so you couldn't have traded just Austin Rivers by himself for another 60 days, which is after the trade deadline. So,
yep.
So we had no chance of trading just him. We'd have to be as a part of a bigger package in order to do it. So it's highly unlikely that was our goal there.
And I think we're going to find he's going to sign somewhere. He's an NBA caliber player, barely, but I think it's going to be a little while for him. I think he's going to struggle to find a place.
Yeah. I mean, you can go back to the Clippers. His daddy will sign him, right?
Sure. Now he's not paying for him.
See, you guys, exactly. if we join this little cavalcade of teams where they're not great, but they're on the upswing because they hustle. And I was just talking about this because they hustle and they work hard, and it's like the Suns and the Nets and who's the other one?
Dallas.
Kings. The Kings, like the most. And Dallas. Like, I would be fine. To me, that's a sign we're trending in the right direction. Finally, after our culture, I read the report of Sarver threatening to move us out of Phoenix, and I was like, wow, we've hit like rock bottom, and now it's starting to pick up a little bit.
We've somehow talked for 30 minutes and not once mentioned the real MVP of this team, Greta.
No.
I saw Sun's logo with her face in the middle of the logo.
No, I'm over it.
Put her
I
in
know.
the honor.
I'm very quickly getting over it too. But the line of Sarver is so tight that he squeaks when he walks was pretty solid.
Yeah, I mean, you want something that's soundbiteable, and that was certainly that, because I mean that was getting played on ESPN and all sorts of outlets. Yeah. And I liked what she said. Don't get me wrong. I think part of the reason I'm jaded is because I deal with people like that all the time.
I imagine.
My line of work, and because we cover a city council ourselves. So between both avenues, it's like she's right, but people are like this whether they're right or not, and it's kind of grating sometimes.
Yeah, I can only imagine. I can only imagine someone like her in a city council meeting about whether you're going to plant a new tree in a park. It's like, you guys are just getting so upset about it. It's like, please go away.
I have to like her though, because she's doing the Sarver. I was not aware how awful of a human being he was. Like, he sucks, and I knew that. I've been a Suns fan for long enough to know he's not a good GM, but he seems just like a shitty guy too.
Well, we also had the video that leaked the week before of him with that interaction with that fan. How much money you got?
$100.
Sell the team. What you got? Dave, you told me about that one.
Yeah.
I
kind of thought it was funny until the "I feel sorry for you" line that he said.
Only $100? Oh, I feel sorry for you.
And I'm sure I'm imagining that the hatred of an entire fan base has to wear on Sarver, but as we saw from the article with James Dolan this week, sometimes shitty owners get out of touch with the fact that they're hated for a specific reason, and that reason could be alleviated if they were tired of it by just selling the team and taking the already massive profit they've made. So no one's really going to feel sorry for them.
I can't. I mean, I saw that James Dolan's willing to sell. I was like, oh my God, Knicks fans are throwing a party right now. And can you imagine if that James Dolan was replaced with Robert Sarver? We'd be dancing on the rooftops right now.
I wouldn't.
But
I think James Dolan's a worse owner than Robert Sarver.
Oh, he is. No, he is. I'm just saying. I would love Robert Sarver to sell the team. That's pretty much it.
Yeah, some people would just be excited for a fresh face, but sometimes the devil you know.
Yeah, well, James Dolan's a terrible owner. Good Lord.
Mm-hmm. And there's 2 franchises stuck with him.
Yeah, wait, who's the other one? The WNBA team?
The Rangers.
The
New York Rangers. It's a hockey team. I know we don't talk a lot about hockey on the show, but
no. See, the problem is you cut out as you're talking. I thought you said Raiders,
Raiders.
like Oakland Raiders. I'm like,
Raiders.
what?
Well, I mean, the Raiders keep moving so often; they might as well be in New York anyways. Who gives a fuck?
Who cares?
Yeah.
The Las Vegas Raiders.
I think they will be the Vegas Raiders in the next 5 years. We'll see.
Yeah, they are supposed to be.
Yeah.
So if the Suns move to Vegas, what are we doing? We're still fans. I think if we're true fans, we have to continue rooting for the team.
I couldn't.
And if there's the silver lining is that finally we can say, like, we're not just rooting for the team because we grew up here. We're rooting for them because we're attached to them as a team. And I've always kind of wanted to root for a team that I wasn't like from. Small silver lining. I would much rather have them stay.
I get what you're saying, but one, thankfully, they're not moving. Like, there's
No, they're not going to.
almost 0% chance of moving. But if they ever did move, like, I can't imagine being like somebody from Seattle. And it's like, oh, you had this team, you grew up with them, they won a championship in the 70s, and now they're gone. Like, I just wouldn't, I couldn't even, I'd have a hard time being an NBA fan, and I'm not going to lie.
I still think you root for Oklahoma City. Because, correct me if I'm wrong, they have banners in Oklahoma City from Seattle. Like, they still celebrate the franchise.
It's still connected to their history and whatnot, yeah.
That's
but
enough.
still.
That's why, so like 2K, which we'll play sometime when Dave is here, 2K19 has these all-time teams now, so we're going to have a league of all the all-time teams. Well, the Thunder are, of course, Harden, Westbrook, and Durant, and then Gary Payton and Shaun Kemp and Detlef Schrempf and all these other Sonics. And it's weird because they're all in Thunder uniforms, and you're like... That is just right. Awkward and doesn't sit right. So it's all just a jumbled mess. I would be a fan of the team in Vegas as long as Devin Booker was there.
Yeah.
And then I'd be like, see ya.
I'm sure Vancouver still roots for the Memphis Grizzlies.
Actually, if you think about the geography of that, for a while there was two teams up there because Vancouver's not that far from Seattle, and it's like cool. We got these two NBA teams that could be good rivals, and now they're both gone, like to the Midwest, basically.
What did
it's
Vancouver ever do? I could not name you one player from the Vancouver Grizzlies.
Bryant Big Country
Reeves. And Sharif Abdur-Rahim.
The thing that pretty much doomed their franchise, actually.
How does that work? So, an expansion team, how did they get players?
Most teams get to protect a certain number of them in an expansion draft, so teams usually get to protect 11 or so. It'd probably be different now because the rosters have expanded, but you get to protect X number of players that cannot be picked, and then they choose from all the players who are left.
Yep.
So sometimes they unprotect bad players they don't care about at the end of the roster. Sometimes they'll unprotect bad contracts from decent players, but like, Bismack Biyombo, the Magic would be like, yeah, take him. I mean, he's okay, but he's making $17 million a year, so yeah, if you want him.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So it's almost always a rough start for an expansion team. How do you get around that? Like you can't be an expansion team and get like a number one pick.
Sometimes they've done that. That's why Vegas last year in its first year in the NHL was such a strong team. They made it all the way to the Stanley Cup Finals because they had a lot of draft picks to play with, and they could negotiate. If teams did not want to give up a player that they did have to expose, they could be like, okay, well, we're going to take this player, but if you don't want us to, what about you throw us like a second-round pick, huh?
Okay.
So they would give up a second-round pick for essentially nothing, and then Vegas was using that to stockpile some good young talent or package them in trades. So you could do it where you could have them at least not be garbage for the first few years because that's tough. I mean, you're going to get an early bump from fans who are just excited to have the franchise, but that doesn't even last a full season. So if they're just garbage... It's going to be hard for a franchise.
Would you rather have the Seattle Suns or the Las Vegas Suns?
Vegas.
I mean,
I think Vegas,
if I'm going to be a fan, I can drive there
closer.
at least.
They're close. I could drive and see a game almost as easily as Phoenix from here, especially. It's not the same for Dave, and Seattle just has the other history to it. I wouldn't want them to be tied into the Supersonics because the Suns already have their own longer history.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. So I feel like we have, for the first time in a long time, the slightest glimmer of hope.
I'm
that's
sure
lasted longer than one game.
There has to be people listening that are like, okay, it was a 3-game win streak against teams that are mediocre to bad, and they're still 7-24. Like, what are you guys freaking out about? And it's like, none of us are overselling this, even Shaun.
No.
None of us are overstating this. It's just, look, it was NBA basketball. It was enjoyable to watch, and we have forgotten what that felt like.
And normally we would have lost to these 3 terrible, mediocre NBA teams. So the fact that we're not losing, we're winning is... that's what you call improvement. So we're not going crazy, but Dallas is not a bad team in that stretch that we beat, and New York is terrible.
I think Rick Carlisle is the best coach in the league.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know Greg Popovich is still in it. I mean, right this minute, I think Carlisle's the best coach in the league.
Well, I don't think Pop is the. At one point, sure, I feel like he's checked out. I don't know. He doesn't seem as engaged anymore, and I think
he's even better than Brad Stevens, to be perfectly honest. But that's just my hot take.
Yeah, I mean, Stevens is kind of, for whatever reason, hasn't figured this team out this year, which is kind of crazy. You figure he would, but...
They just finally did. I mean, they've won, 6 or 7 since they put Smart and Morris in the starting lineup, which is why I think we're going to get just wrecked tomorrow night.
How do we feel about Kokoskov? Like...
I think he's fine.
I think he's fine. I think we're seeing, you just didn't have the personnel, which like we should know. Obviously, this team was not well put together, and he's had to try to navigate that.
But it's funny, we have added to this team in the sense that the only person we've really added to this team is Jamal Crawford, but we've had addition by subtraction, really.
And
if you take, I mean, added since training camp. I mean, I guess. And we've had addition by subtraction because we start out so horribly, and then we get rid of Chandler and Ariza. And I mean, Ariza, technically, he was there at the start of this 3-game streak, but I mean, he was pretty much out the door.
Yeah, oh yeah.
I mean, we've started playing better even back to like that Clippers game that we blew the lead. We at least had a lot of effort, and we just kind of faltered down the end. The Spurs game was awful, but
and those are the play. Yeah. So that's what I think. If when you have veterans sometimes, and you're getting blown out, those are the ones where they're going to be like, well, then screw this. Bad body language, no effort.
Mm-hmm.
If you're a young player, Holmes and Melton, this is still your opportunity to prove yourself. Even if you're getting blown out. So that's where we started seeing that extra hustle and effort, and that's been huge.
This all starts at the top. We saw very quickly just a week or two ago what happens when there's no Booker or Warren with this roster. It's horrible. And that makes sense. I mean, you could say that about any team. You take away their top 2 players, yeah, they're going to struggle. But what's interesting to me is the additional effect it has on everybody else when they're in the lineup. When Warren's the second scoring option, he flourishes. Doesn't do great as the number 1. He's had a couple games. When Ayton's the third option on offense, he's efficient, hyper efficient. He rebounds well. He plays better defense because I think he's expending himself less on offense. Everything kind of clicks. And you look at others' rosters, so that's true too. Like the Spurs for a long time have been known for all their role players. Oh, all these guys look better. Well, guess what's happened now? That they're not as good overall. Yeah. All those role players look like shit.
Yeah.
Is Patty Mills even an NBA rotation player anymore? I'm not positive. And people are like, we should get him. I'm like, I don't think he's any good. You're only as good as the stars up top. And right now, Booker and Warren, while not good enough to lead us to the playoffs or anything at this particular moment, with Ayton, look like the bedrock of something good going forward.
I mean, the Warriors are the exception. Well, they're winning. They're trying to win the 3rd championship in a row. LA, you take a LeBron off that team, what are they doing?
They're below 500.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Well, I mean, granted, most of the Western Conference is right around 500 anyway, so.
Yeah, but still.
It's been so weird. I want to touch on the bet that Dave and I have going before we log out here. I want you to know I will pay my side of it. I'm not trying to get out of anything. But when I made the bet, I was trying to make a bet saying LA would not be that good. And what we're seeing is the rest of the West is that bad. Which was not the spirit of the bet at all. But
here's the funny thing about your bet right now. I'm looking at the standings. The Lakers are currently 18-13 in 4th place in the West. 11th place in the West. So only 2 games back is the Spurs at 16-15.
Yeah.
So the Lakers could go on a 2-game losing streak and be out of the playoffs easily. So this bet won't be solidified or won or lost for a while, I don't think.
It won't.
But I agree with the spirit of your rule, but
No. I'm not even saying like rule. Like I will totally say this is part of making a bet. Is like you have to look at the whole league. Like that's fine. But I want to establish when I said the Lakers were not going to be top 5. I think if they were 6th, it's a wash, right?
Yeah.
But the rest of the league has been so mediocre that they're just like rising to the top, kind of.
It is starting to sort itself out, though. And I think we'll see that even more as the season goes on, as teams get more comfortable with the changes they've made and whatnot. Oklahoma City has already recovered from its god-awful start. They're 3rd now.
Houston's playing better.
Houston's finally playing better, and I think they're still going to make one more deal before the trade deadline that'll help them. And I still expect Utah to turn the page. I don't know what's happening there. I don't know why they're not any better than they are, especially with a healthy Gobert. I don't know what happened. I really don't. I mean, Donovan Mitchell leveled off. That's one thing. Anybody who thinks he's better than Booker can also go fuck off.
Yeah, no.
Yeah, that makes me happy. And same with Tatum. He is also not playing great, right? Or is he starting
He's been consistently decent.
Okay.
And I think the problem with Boston is that their system kind of dictates that everybody except Kyrie is going to kind of go through some ebbs and flows. I mean, they have so many different players who could put up 15 points on a given night. They almost have too much talent. They have too many like B+ players.
Yeah, and not one A+. Like Kyrie is up there for sure.
And I think because they were trying to start guys like Hayward, who I think it was unreasonable to expect him to be back to himself at the start of his first season back after that awful injury. Now they have that rotation sorted. I think they're in much better shape.
I would agree with you.
Yeah.
Although I do think Kyrie's A+.
I think Kyrie's an A. If he was better defensively, he'd be an A+.
Yeah.
He's the one who's not, though, and that includes Hayward until he gets healthy.
Well, who is an A+ then? Like, to me,
In the
A+
league?
is like if you're saying like Steph and KD and LeBron are A+, and like that's it. Giannis
and Anthony Davis, I'd put up there.
Kawhi
A+.
Leonard.
Yeah.
And Karl Anthony Towns is close now that he's trying on defense.
Mm-hmm.
That's about it.
Yeah.
You either have to be a two-way behemoth or a just like once-in-a-lifetime on one side like Steph Curry.
Harden.
Or Kevin Durant.
Probably
Harden's
A+,
up there.
right? Even
Harden's
though
an A+,
Harden,
despite his defensive shortcomings as well. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because he is maybe the most influential player in the NBA as far as the offensive side of the ball. Even Steph.
Yeah. Yep.
Even with his double step back.
Yeah, his five-step step back.
It's all right. It's all right.
He's doing it less this year at least, so that's nice.
I'm just glad. I mean, this is how good Harden is. I'm thrilled when pundits say like Booker is following in that developmental pattern. I'm like, yeah, that would be amazing.
If Booker became Harden, dear Lord, I'd be so happy.
We have seen flashes of that same step back from Booker too.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
He picked that up from James Harden. Just like Goran Dragic picked up Harden's ability to draw fouls by like dragging the ball through the defender's arms when they're sort of trying to contest, make it look like a shot attempt. His free throw attempt shot up last year by like 5 a game because he stole that from Harden and made it his own.
To me, that's such a good sign of players developing when you can see them taking tricks from other people's games. I saw a video where it put Steve Nash and Devin Booker side by side, and it was the way Nash, whenever he drove to the hoop, how he always made sure to have a guy on his hip, basically.
Yeah.
You just kind of lean into the guy on his hip and then extend the ball out so it could lay it up, so nobody could block it. And then Booker did that exact same thing in a game. I think it was a Minnesota game. It was just like, that's so pretty.
Break. And the guy, either you're going to foul me or I'm going to get a pretty much open layup.
Did it a couple times against New York, too. There's a few different guards who have really picked that up, especially at the point. Kyrie's another, Mike Conley's another, where if you get on their shoulder or on their back, they're going to keep you there, force the big guy to make a decision. If he commits, it's an easy pass to the big.
It's funny because that used to be a play where you try to outrun them as much as you can and then hope that you get it up before they trail you. Now it's like, You actually keep them there. You slow yourself down and you keep the contact on, and it's cool.
You almost hold them. You almost hold them there, for lack of a better word. You like kind of just want them to stay on your hip to make sure that they can't get in front of you.
Yep.
So yeah,
it's cool seeing him pick up little quirks to his game, and he's been playing better defensively, and that was the one big complaint from everybody. And Booker's been, I think, adequate to good in the 3-game stretch, and that's all we need him to be. He does not need to be Kawhi Leonard.
Apparently, our perimeter defense is like rock solid now because we're just switch heavy.
Melton's good,
and
that helps.
Great. We used to have like the worst perimeter defense. Like actually, I think 30th out of 30 in the league for perimeter defense. And maybe not this year, but at one point.
We have enough of a sample size to think definitively say that Ayton can hang on switches.
Yeah.
Like there's going to be times where he gets outmatched by a really quick guard or maybe a clever small forward, but overall, like he does fine if he gets isolated like that.
And in today's game, I would rather get beat on the drive than like the 3-ball because players shoot it with. It's so weird. It's so different than when I grew up, where it's like you let them take that low percentage shot. You got to protect the interior. And now it's like it's high. What you get for the 3 is like it's worth it now.
Well, yeah, because people can actually hit them. They've been shooting them literally their entire life.
There were a handful of players that could do that back in the late 80s and early 90s after the 3-point line was introduced, but now it feels like there's a ton of people shooting over 40%.
Dave, I was listening to 2K, and they were talking about what one guy would like to see is the 3-point line never it stays the same distance all the way around.
So it just goes out of bounds. There's no corner 3.
And there is no corner 3. So if you're going to shoot from the corner, it's just a long 2. What do you think about that?
It's it would change the game a lot because that corner 3 has become such a powerful weapon.
I think I kind of like it because of that. I don't know.
I think it would change it in such a way that it would lead to a lot of end game situations where someone's trying to get a 3 and you have to then go to review and see like, okay, did he step on the 3-point line or the out of bounds line? And it'd be like, there'd be so many weird plays in that corner where it'd be like, he's out of bounds. No, he's not. He's on the 3-point line. Like it'd be hard to tell for a lot of things.
Yeah.
So it'd be interesting. I mean, I'm not against it, but it'd be interesting for sure.
because it would change the game. But it occurs to me that like the corner is a much shorter 3-point spot, and obviously you don't get the benefit of the backboard. How often does the backboard these days play into a made three? It's rare. I'm sure a little bit. Every once in a while, it hits the front, hits the backboard, falls in, but
Sure.
no one's like banking in threes these days. So
I saw Steph Curry do it once against the Suns, where he banked in a 3 from the corner. I was like, how did you do that?
Shoot, like,
That's not physically possible.
Yeah, that was weird.
I remember like just barely just kissed the backboard and went. I was like, how did he do that?
He didn't mean
That's
to do
not
that.
possible.
And you want to give him so much credit because he's so good. You're like, he couldn't have meant to do that. He's not going to say otherwise, and he shouldn't. He's like a magician, you know? Don't tell anybody. Yeah, I meant to do that.
Yeah.
I called game.
Exactly.
Yeah, I think it's interesting. I would like to see more of the numbers of what the corner three is doing now, because teams are now scouting it out. Whenever there's a guard who drives up the middle and then looks to kick it out, that pass is almost always gone now. If you make a careless pass there, it gets going the other way. So much so that they're now hooking a pass to the angle instead of the corner because that three is now open, which is why it's interesting that that's Warren's pet spot now. Instead of him being in the corners, he loves the angle.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think the game will continue to evolve as necessary. That's why I'm also not interested in like a 4-point shot or anything else. I think defenses will change. Maybe it favors offense too much now. I don't know. Scoring's way up this year, but I think it's exciting.
I still want to see the pendulum swing back, and like now we're playing such small ball that a really dominant few centers can come in and like bring back the interior game. And for what it's worth, I know Popovich is a fan of that too. I don't agree. I don't know if you've heard him talk on this. He said,
he said it's boring.
It's not even basketball anymore. It's just 3-point shooting. I don't agree with that. I think the Warriors, you look at that and you're like, that looks really good. Less so when Steph dribbles the ball up and jacks up a 3, which he makes, so it's not like a terrible shot. But they also have great ball movement, and it looks really like a great brand of basketball.
That's the key. That's the entire key to it. They move the ball.
I wish we could have seen the Pelicans with Cousins in the playoffs. Now, those are not two traditional bigs in Cousins and Davis. Obviously, they're multifaceted people who can handle the ball almost as well as guards and have quickness for their size. But they were having some really interesting matchup problems. As the rest of the league went small, what do you do against those two?
Yeah.
You usually have somebody in the lineup. You usually have one big and then maybe a 4 that's out of position, but it's supposed to be a 3. So what do you do when they have to guard Anthony Davis for 30 possessions a night or DeMarcus Cousins? And we never really got to see it because Cousins, was missing for the rest of the season. But for a while there, it was like, maybe this is the next step. I don't know.
That's my hope with Ayton. That's why I was kind of like, I think looking forward, this could – maybe the league keeps trending small and Doncic is going to be even more of the right choice as we go forward. But I got to think it's going to come back a little bit.
It would be great. It would be great to see Ayton's body fill out a little bit, kind of how Shaq's did. Maybe not as much because Shaq just got kind of fat. But like Shaq was really thin when he came into the NBA. If Ayton can fill out and become just a really muscly big guy and who can step out and hit the 3, doesn't make a specialty out on it, but like, hey, if you leave him open, he's going to hit it. But then you just throw him down in the paint and he just goes to work. That'd be a fantastic thing to have. I think it could change things a lot if he's able to do that.
Yeah. There are just enough interesting big men in the league that I think someone's going to take a shot at this again, because there's so many different versatile big men, which is why I think it's such a steep learning curve for Ayton that I mentioned before. But we mentioned a lot of them: Towns and Cousins and Davis and Jokic, and Al Horford is kind of a weird hybrid center at his position. Miles
we didn't even
Turner,
mention Embiid.
a Kristaps Porzingis, a Joel Embiid. Like, think about all these big men that are all on their own teams. What if 2 of them teamed up again? What if one of them came to play with Ayton? Because he's one of them too.
I think Embiid's getting sick of Philadelphia. With Butler there.
Yeah.
Come play with Ayton.
Yeah.
You love him.
You can play defense, Joel.
You guys have
play defense. Ayton will play offense.
You guys have a known friendship.
So far what I've gone, though, it's been like a friendly rivalry between those two.
Much better than Inez Cantor and his stupid tweets.
Yeah.
You saw Booker's response to that last night. Right?
I love that. Keep running the pick and roll at 0-0.
Yeah, Booker quoted the tweet from last year when Cantor got him ejected, and just said
the L,
and just said in quotes, "Keep running the pick and roll at 0-0 every time." After he posted 38 and a pasting in the Knicks. And I haven't seen a response from Enes Kanter on that one, probably because there really isn't one.
He's such a troll.
Until the next time they play, maybe.
I love Booker every time. He tweeted out, "I love Phoenix," when all the shit was hitting the fan. With,
I know. I saw that
everything.
too.
I love that.
Phoenix.
I just wanted to give him a hug and
Why?
thank you, Devin.
You know what? He has no reason to almost. Like, it's been
He
about
didn't.
a bad situation as it can be. And he's like, I love Phoenix. And it's like, you know what? I love you.
I
always
want
have.
to.
Which is why I'll follow him to Vegas when the team gets
Look
moved.
into my eyes, Booker. I love you. Yeah.
Well, that's where we are. We just spent 50 minutes talking about a 7-24 team, but by God, there's, like you guys said, a speck of hope on the horizon.
We were 4-24 3 games ago.
Yeah.
That's
I know.
why.
We're playoff bound.
And I don't think I harbor the illusion that we're still not the worst team in the West when all is said and done, but
No, we are.
I'm pretty sure we are. But I don't know. I would have been 100% positive about that just 6 days ago, and now, here we are, and I think maybe
6 days ago, huh, Chris?
6 days ago. Because
like
watching
it.
the Suns win was almost as good.
Almost.
And I had forgotten what it felt like.
Wait, which one?
Lately, I've been like, you know what? This has been enjoyable to watch. Like, we lost to the Clippers. I was like, it's competitive basketball. I've been serious when I said this whole year, as long as we're competing again, I'll be happy. We don't have to win a lot. I just want to compete again.
Yeah, it's worth noting because it never came up here that this was just about 2 weeks ago where we were back-to-back 34-9 and 36-9 at the end of the first quarter, which is the exact opposite of what Shaun is talking about.
Yeah.
And why would you want to watch anything if you know it's going to be that bad that quick?
And that's where Ayton was like, "What? Once you're down that low, you just stop trying. Like, you can't come back." I'm like, "No, you're right, but like that's not the attitude. Is okay, we're gonna take that time to work on something or try something. You don't just say, oh, we're gonna stop trying. Like, who taught you this stuff? I grew up in Kingman, and I have more competitive spirit than you.
You had to.
Well,
Kingman.
You had to just survive, though.
Yeah, there's too much meth around you.
It was tough in those streets. All right, so that's our review of the Suns. We'll probably check in a few weeks when the opportunity presents itself again, and God only knows what will have happened to this team between now and then. Maybe they'll keep winning. Maybe they'll lose every game between now and then. Maybe Devin Booker will get hurt again.
If
I
we
don't
go on
know.
a 20-game win streak, we're like right there in the playoff conversation.
Look, we're gonna finish 58-24, guys. We got this.
Yeah. Just like we were going to be 82-0 after the first game.
Yep,
When people were extolling us to thank Ryan McDonough for the roster.
Yeah.
God, that post didn't age well.
Yeah.
Nope.
And that was what was that followed by? Let's see, 3-24. Yeah. Thanks, Ryan. Thanks, pal.
Yeah, it's taken on a new meaning.
Yeah, it
now.
sure has. Very sarcastic, which I love. So thanks for listening. In between episodes, you can find us at our website, objectionnetwork.com, on social media at Team Objection on Facebook and Twitter. It's objectionnetwork@gmail.com for emails. And finally, you can send... What are you doing?
He's
Trying to show off my Sun
trying to get
shirt.
saucy, I
I'm
think.
wearing the same shirt, if you're watching. We have
Dave
the
is
same shirt.
aroused and he wants you to touch him.
Yeah, look at this tent in his shirt. And you can find us at youtube.com/Objection Network for new videos 7 days a week. See you next time. After Christmas, in the new year.